Hi everyone, Hank Pomerantz from Carolina Yacht Care in beautiful downtown Southport. Today we're going to take a look at tides and weather in a little Google Earth experiment here. I want to start off by saying that the products that I've chosen to put in here are just my own personal favorites. You may have some other things you'd like to see. Same with navigation, of course. But there's so much out there in the way of weather information. If there's something more that you'd like to see on here, most of it is very, very easy to add, so please let me know. So we'll start off by expanding tides and weather and taking a look what's under there. We have tidal heights and tidal currents where available. We have the marine zone forecast, some buoy data, watches and warnings, radar images, and some scattered weather charts. So we'll start at the top. To start, we have tides. If you look at tides, if you expand that, and you have all of these tidal heights and you expand that, there's a whole database full of tidal stations down here. As you can see, there's a ton of them. We're not really going to worry about those right now, just to let you know that all that information is down there. So if we turn on tides, what we get is a list of all the tidal stations. The T are obviously for tidal stations. In this initial version that you get, you may, if you see the arrow staying there when you move your cursor, that means that there's data under there. If you move your cursor over here, you'll notice that there's no data under there. So when I click on that, nothing happens. When I click on this one, something does happen, and of course it goes out and it gets the tides. It's very similar to what I showed you in the last video. This is a little bit different. Here at the mouth of the Cape Fear River, we have a current station. So that's the C for current. You can zoom in a little bit there so you can see it. But you click on that and it basically goes out and gets the latest current information for Bald Head Island, basically the mouth of the Cape Fear River. So that's tides and currents, and I'll be filling in all of these other locations as we go, as time allows. This is just a concept of operation. So let's turn that off. Now let's turn to marine zone forecasts. You're all familiar with marine zone forecasts. Let me turn those on. You'll notice that the colors change, but let me zoom out a little bit because this is one of those things where you're really trying to get a little bit of the bigger picture. So each one of these different colored areas is a separate marine zone forecast. All I have to do is click on it, and you'll notice it says Cape Fear to Little River forecast. I hit that, and it goes out and immediately gets the local, the offshore forecast, as well as telling you that there's a small craft advisory in effect. Now these forecasts are interesting today because there's all kinds of winds blowing out there. So we have a small craft warning in effect today. Let's take a look a little bit up further north because this is kind of interesting. If you look out here, there's all kinds of forecasts available. Not only is it the offshore forecast, but you have the Pamlico Sound, you have the Neuse River. Here's the Albemarle Sound. I thought that was interesting today. When I brief the weather to the evening classes, I always talk about how uncomfortable the Albemarle Sound could be. This would be one of those days. If I hit the forecast for the Albemarle Sound, you'll notice that it says there's a gale warning in effect today, and it looks like it's about to expire, but northerly winds 25 to 35 knots. This would be a really miserable day to try to be traversing, especially northbound, across the Albemarle Sound. So that's the way that works. The other thing is that you can look at too is you'll notice that if I click on here and look at this forecast, this talks about a gale warning in effect all the way until this evening, and it talks about 30 to 35 knots. One thing I like to do is to look at the buoy data and see whether or not the observations of what's going on out there actually meet the forecast requirement. So for example, in this case, if I turn on the buoys, I get a buoy out here, this 41025. If I click on the buoy, it tells me that at this time that the wind's blowing basically 31 to almost 40 knots with almost 10-foot seas out of the north. So that tells me that the gale warning that's in effect is verifying. In other words, it really, really, truly is happening. Sometimes they don't line up real well. Sometimes they do. This is one of those examples of you wouldn't want to really be going around Hatteras right now if you could help it. So that's how the buoys work. You just turn them on, you click on them. In some instances, buoy information is not available. In this one, it is. If it's not available, it'll tell you. When you click on it, it'll just say no recent data. Okay, and the buoys are available all over the place, all the way up and down the coast, and you just pick them out as you see fit. So that's how the buoys work along with the coastal forecast. So that's pretty straightforward. I'm going to go ahead and turn that off, and I'm going to skip warnings here for a second. Let's go down to radar images. Let me turn off tides just to clean up the clean up the display a little bit. Let's go to radar images. In radar images, if I open that up, I have all kinds of different choices here. I can look, forgetting this one just for a second, but I can look at the southeast radar just by clicking that link, and there you go, there's the southeast radar. Go back to Google Earth. I can look at the northeast radar, and I've just chosen these because most of us are either going somewhere in these two areas. And go back to Google Earth. If you're interested in looking at a radar outside there, you can just go to this link here, and you can essentially, I'm not going to go there, but you can just essentially choose a link to go to a specific radar that you're interested in. So there you go. You've got the marine zone forecast, the buoy data, the observations, and there's your radar. Let's close those. The warnings are a little bit kind of a work in progress. If I click on, whoops, let me go back to Google Earth there. If I click on warnings, there's nothing in effect right now, but you'll see what comes up here. Red, there shows tornado watches, severe thunderstorm watches. These are flash flood watches, and these are any special marine advisories. This is interesting because we have gale warnings blowing up here, but they don't show any marine advisories. And so I'm not sure exactly what the disconnect there is, but I'll be working on that, so you'll be able to get the current warnings. So we've talked about the radar images. I've also chosen to put a few weather charts on here. Let me expand that out. This is my favorite one, my favorite series right here, the short range weather charts. When I click on that and I go to that site, this is great because what this is allowing me to do is it starts at today, and then all I do is move my cursor across and it moves everything forward. And you don't have to be a meteorologist to appreciate what this chart is telling you. So when I look at this, I'm going, okay, well, today I have, big high pressure here. And then Wednesday, the high pressure is still there. Wednesday morning, it's overhead. Wednesday afternoon, it's still overhead. Thursday, all that's moving offshore. And now I've got precipitation moving in. There's a little bit of guidance there about what that means. Okay, so, and then I look at that and I go, okay, well, by Thursday, I'm in pretty well solid rain here, and I have a front coming through. The other thing you can do here is just put your cursor on the loop and let it sit there, and you can watch the progression of weather systems as they come through there. So I really like this a lot. It tells you an awful lot about what's going to happen over the next essentially 2.5 days. So that's the way that works. Go back to Google Earth. This one I just threw in there because it's interesting. I like this one because it shows you where the weather systems are, and it also shows you on the same chart where the thunderstorm and the shower activity is. Again, all of these things are changes that I can make based on what you prefer to see. I think some of you may end up asking for things like, well, I'd like to see the model data with the wind barbs and things like that. I'm sure we could find those as well. But I think the critical things right now are these not only the tides, but the marine zone forecasts. Again, these. And because that really truly is, if you're trying to make a decision as to whether to go offshore, this is really what you want to look at. And of course the buoy data as well. And again, be advised the fact that the Neuse River, for example, if I turn this on and look at the Neuse River, the Neuse and Bay rivers, these are also can be pretty nasty. So don't lose sight of the fact that you can look at the inshore waters as well as the offshore waters. And that's really it. I look forward to your feedback. We'll close that up, go back to Google Earth, and here we are back again. Look forward to your feedback. Let me know what kind of products you'd like to see, and we'll do our best to try to get those on there for you. And again, in general, I look forward to your feedback, and once again, thank you so very, very much for participating in our little experiment here. Take care.